Chapter 19 Showdown. Kyle was only studying for the one A-level he needed to secure his place at university, and Lauren had a free period after lunch. They met up by the main campus gates and began the 10-minute journey to Mr. Large's house. Nervous? Kyle asked as they walked briskly, with gloves on and breath curling in front of them. A bit, Lauren nodded. But I've dealt with FBI sharpshooters and pedos, so I reckon I can survive an encounter with Large. He might not even be home, Kyle said. But Mr. Large came to his front door in a pair of baggy jogging pants and an England rugby shirt, scratching his mustache as he stood in the doorway. What? Lauren spoke politely. We'd like to come in and talk. You know that thing you mentioned the other night? Large was smart enough to realise that they might be recording the conversation. It was just a friendly chat, Lauren. We know you're a busy man, Kyle said, troweling on the irony, because he knew that Large was suspended from his job and had nothing to do. We'll try not to take up too much of your valuable time. Large leaned out of the doorway and glanced left and right suspiciously before waving the pair inside. Nice and warm in here, Lauren said, pulling off her gloves as she walked down a neatly furnished hallway. Mr. Large's morning was spread across the living room for all to see. A copy of the Times with the crossword half done, a breakfast bowl with a splash of milk in the bottom, a Crunchy Bar wrapper, and an American chat show blaring out of the TV. Lauren smiled. Mind if we sit down? Mr. Large was clearly uneasy, but he scooped the newspaper off the sofa to make space for Lauren. Kyle sat in an armchair facing her. What's this all about? Large asked. My old mate Rod Nilsson sends his regards, Kyle said. Remember him? Large looked uncertain. Red-headed lad, he nodded finally. Nice boy, but he didn't have the stomach for a second go at training. He still gets nightmares, Kyle said pointedly. Nightmares about choking on sand and suffocating. Look, Large said firmly. I don't know what this is, sour grapes or whatever, but I had a job to do and I was damn good at it. Lauren raised an eyebrow. I guess that's one way of looking at it. And you're going to tell the truth and stick up for me at my hearing on Friday, aren't you? Lauren smiled. The truth is exactly what I'm going to be telling. I just hope that everyone will be safe and happy afterwards, Large threatened. Lauren tells me that you tried to blackmail her, Kyle said bluntly. Mr. Large suddenly looked uncomfortable. Is this some kind of joke? He said, scowling at Lauren. I haven't met either of you in months, except for a few nights back when Lauren and I exchanged hellos on my doorstep. We're not recording you, Lauren said. I knew you wouldn't be stupid enough to repeat what you said, but I'm not the only one who has vulnerabilities. As Lauren spoke, Kyle pulled a small stack of photos out of his jacket. He held up the top one, which was a flattering head and shoulders enlargement of Haley. Quite a nice-looking girl, your daughter, Kyle said casually, as he switched the picture to the back of the pile, revealing the next shot of Haley and James kissing, with James's fingers clutching her bum. My brother certainly seems to be getting along with her, doesn't he? Lauren grinned. Mr. Large gasped. Kyle flipped to another picture, an extreme close-up of James and Haley kissing. And that was just their first date, Lauren added. Imagine what they'll get up to next time. I can hear something, Kyle said, cupping a hand to his ear. Could it be the patter of tiny feet? Nah, Lauren shook her head. Knowing my brother, he'll just dump her and break her heart. But don't worry, Kyle said. You've trained a lot of boys on campus. They're all fit guys, and I bet that once James ditches her, they'll all be queuing up to take a shot at your daughter. Mr. Large didn't know what to say or where to look. Dozens of big, strapping teenagers throwing themselves at Haley, Lauren sighed. And you know what teenagers are like. If you stand between Haley and some boy she fancies, she'll only end up hating your guts. Lauren and Kyle weren't proud that they'd manipulated Haley and had no intention of taking things further. But people judge others by their own standards. Hopefully, Large would believe their threats, because it was the sort of dastardly scheme he might have concocted himself. But of course, none of this has to go any further, Lauren emphasised. We're prepared to back off as long as you guarantee that Meatball stays safe. Mr. Large was turning extremely red. Why bring my daughter into this? He screamed. She's innocent! Innocent? Lauren snapped. Is she really? And I suppose Meatball is a little doggy serial killer. Or maybe he sneaks onto campus and sells crack to the red shirts. We have it on good authority that Zara Asker doesn't like you, Norman, Kyle said. Mac kept saving your bacon, but his days are over. When Lauren tells that disciplinary panel the truth, you know you're going to be out on your ass. Especially now you've upset me, Lauren added. I might even be tempted to exaggerate. You can't do this! Large spluttered, sending his breakfast bowl and a couple of remote controls flying as he booted the coffee table up in the air. The noise made Lauren jump, but she kept herself together and faked a grin. Oh dear, now you've gone and spilled milk on the carpet. And just to make sure that you're not reinstated, we're going to send a petition around campus. Agents will refuse to go on missions if you are, Kyle added. This was news to Lauren, mainly because Kyle had only thought up the idea 2 seconds earlier. And we've already told Meryl Spencer that you tried to blackmail me, Lauren said. Zara doesn't know yet, but I wouldn't expect a Christmas card from the Askers this year. Mr. Large was going so red that Lauren was frightened he'd keel over with another heart attack. Cherub has been my whole life! Large bellowed. I'm a training instructor! That's what I am! No, Lauren corrected. What you are is an asshole. Kyle couldn't help giggling as Mr. Large stepped towards Lauren. She was a quarter of his age and a third of his size, but she didn't flinch. You've wrecked my life, Lauren Adams, Large shouted. You popped my back out when you hit me with the spade and knocked me into that ditch. I hardly ever drank until I found out that it helped relieve the pain. And it was the drink that made me put on weight, which gave me the heart attack, and to top it all off, you now want to hammer the nail into my career! Don't blame me, Lauren screamed back. I only hit you because you were making Bethany dig a grave when she was in agony with her back. It all sounds a lot like poetic justice to me. Come on, Lauren, Kyle said, as he stepped out of the armchair. We've said everything we came here to say. It's up to him whether he resigns now or lets himself and his daughter be humiliated. But as Lauren tried to step around Mr. Large and leave, he placed a hand on her shoulder and pushed her backwards across the sofa. Lauren tried knocking him away with a 2-footed kick, but Large was enormous and his stomach felt like concrete. Her legs buckled under his weight as he leaned forward and grabbed her cheeks, squishing her lips out of shape. Kyle wrapped his arms around Large's waist and tried dragging him off, but Large launched a powerful kick that sent him clattering backwards into a drinks cabinet. "Your fancy moves won't work on me," Large grinned as he pushed down hard, squeezing Lauren's head against the sofa cushion. "Remember, I'm the guy that taught him to you." Lauren looked towards Kyle, hoping that he'd be able to find a weapon or something, but the kick had winded him and he was crumpled against the wall, clutching his stomach. "You won't get away with this," Lauren croaked. "I guess I won't," Mr. Large agreed. "I guess I'll have to resign. We'll move somewhere near where my partner works, and I'll make sure it's far enough from campus that your perverted brother can't touch Haley. But here's the good part. Just so that you never forget me, I'm gonna head next door and wring Meatball's neck." Lauren broke into a coughing fit as Large let go and stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. "We've got to stop him, Kyle!" Lauren screamed. "He's gonna kill Meatball!" As the 2 injured cherubs stumbled into the hallway, Large ran across the driveway and made the Asker's front door shudder as he shoulder charged it. Kyle reached the inside of Large's front door a second later, but it didn't move when he turned the handle. "He must have put the deadlock on. We'll have to go out the back." As they scrambled towards the rear of the unfamiliar house, Large's second kick knocked the Asker's front door off its hinges. He shouted, "I'll show you, Lauren Adams!" as the burglar alarm erupted. Kyle made it out of the back door and sprinted across Large's garden towards the driveway. "You've got to bite him, Meatball!" Lauren shouted desperately as she charged after Kyle. "Don't let him get hold of you!" As the chairwoman of Cherub, Zara Asker was one of the highest-ranking officials in the British intelligence service. This made her a potential hostage target, and her home was fitted with a state-of-the-art alarm. When Meatball heard the klaxon, he went into a frenzy, running around the living room couch and barking like mad. Mr. Large had looked after Meatball when the Askers were on holiday, and the little dog padded curiously towards a man who'd fed him on many occasions. But as Mr. Large reached down to grab Meatball off the carpet, the dog picked up the scent of Lauren racing up the driveway. While Mr. Large had fed him, Lauren not only fed Meatball, but also played with him, took him for really long walks, and never shouted at him. As a result, Meatball vaulted over Mr. Large's hands, cut between his legs, and charged on through the splintered front door. But Kyle was running ahead of Lauren, and before Meatball knew it, he'd put a hand under the dog's belly and plucked him off the ground. Meatball hadn't seen Kyle since he was a puppy, but the dog remembered Kyle's smell and seemed happy enough, until he looked back and noticed that Mr. Large was charging down the hallway towards them and yelling noisily. With Meatball in his arms, Kyle scrambled out onto the driveway. But Large had a good turn of speed for a man in his 40s. He'd built up momentum while Kyle turned, and soon got his arms around Kyle's waist. As Kyle tumbled forward onto the patio, Meatball spilled out, yapping frantically as he ran towards Lauren. Down on the patio, Kyle had wriggled onto his back and put Mr. Large in a headlock, while Large was using his trunk-like arms to crush Kyle's ribs. Lauren considered grabbing Meatball and making a dash back towards campus, but the fight was horribly uneven. Large was powerful and completely out of control, and she could see Kyle getting seriously hurt. To emphasize this, Large freed himself from the headlock and pressed his elbow against Kyle's windpipe. "You'll kill him!" Lauren screamed as she searched desperately for a weapon. As Meatball wagged his tail, Excited by the running around and the blaring alarm, Lauren raced towards the asker's front door. She was greatly relieved to see a muddy implement leaning against the inside of the front porch. Mr. Large saw Lauren charging towards him, but he had Kyle's legs locked around his waist and only one free arm to fend her off. Kyle used all his strength to keep Large still as Lauren swung at him, hitting him square in the back of the head. The blow made a huge clang and sent a wave of vibration up the handle. Large groaned as Kyle felt his opponent's strength evaporate. He wound up with Large's dead weight slumped on top of him. "Are you okay?" Lauren asked as she threw down the spade and pushed Large's unconscious body off Kyle. Kyle was bright red, with sweat pouring down his face. "Just about," he coughed. As he stood up and brushed off his trousers, a white BMW came to an abrupt halt in the road. Two men slid handguns from under their jackets as they opened the doors and ran up the driveway. Lauren recognized them as campus security officers and realized that the asker's alarm was linked up to the campus security room. "What's going on here?" one of the guards shouted, glancing between the unconscious Large and the busted front door as his colleague used a plipper to shut off the alarm.